to a brand new episode of No Party Preference. My name's Josh. I'm here today with good buddy Adam.
Yes, hello.
And as always, we have the No Curse Minute presented by Game Rage Magazine. Good buddies, good reading, good food. Game Rage Magazine.
That sounded like a Papa John's slogan.
I mean, listen, I just read what they tell me. I don't make this stuff up. I mean, you know, but whatever. Anyways, they sponsor us for the No Curse Minute, and you know, we are obligated to legally not curse for 1 minute of the beginning of every song, or I mean, intro. Anyways, all right, fuck that. It's over. Let's get into what the fuck is happening. What the fuck's going on? I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. This economic doublespeak. That's the name of this episode, and that's what we're gonna fucking talk about. Okay, 1984, and the biggest lie the party perpetrated was to tell the people to not believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. All right. So we talked a little bit before about how every time something happens and something goes on, everybody goes on the news and starts. That's a representative of the administration goes on and says everything about, oh no, everything's fine. Oh no, what do you mean? Everything's going great. The economy's doing so well right now. Oh, I'm sorry. It lost like $5 trillion in value in a single day, and they're like, oh no, this is fine. Everything is great. This is the strongest the economy's been in years. Oh, okay. So we're now starting to see the physical, we're seeing the beginnings of the physical aspects of these tariffs, right? Kidding. There's now 40% of all of the ships that are coming from China have nothing on them, or have had nothing on them. They've been empty as they've been coming through here. There's a lot less ships coming through here now.
And they're also punishing the people that are importing shit.
Yeah, correct. I've also seen a thing, I don't know how accurate or how true it is, but it's interesting to note that supposedly on the West Coast, the last ships that are supposed to be coming in for deliveries from China are scheduled to hit sometime in the next couple of days here at the end of April. And I think on the East Coast, the last ships with non-tariffable items on them are hitting like May 3rd or 4th, right? So, and then supposedly after that, that's it. Like, they just ain't sending shit. Like, they're just not sending anything. And they're talking about, oh yeah, there's going to be shortages of stuff because everything's made in China. So, of course, if China stops sending shit because they're getting tariffed and things and companies are no longer importing things, well, then, yeah, there's going to be scarcity in some products. One of the concurrent storylines that's going on with the tariffs and the aftermath of that, the continued aftermath, I suppose, is the student loan deal. The student loan, I don't know if you want to call it a crisis. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it, right? And it is a conundrum, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that I have an answer to this or I have a solution, because I honestly don't know. My personal opinion on student loans is, yeah, it sucks that this happened. I don't know that I should be the one having to pay for it if I didn't get student loans, or if someone else didn't. I wouldn't want a motherfucker to have to pay for my student loans just because, the government decided to forgive them or whatever the case is, right? I get that argument. I understand that. I would say, like, why couldn't you just have done like, the rest of us and just got fucking credit cards, put it on credit cards, then just defaulted on those unsecured credit cards and then just never paid them and then just fucked off, right? Why didn't you just do that? Like the rest of us did, all right? Well, I mean, like I did, I guess. And yes, the student loan practice was predatory as fuck. You are literally preying upon young adults who, for the first time, this is likely the first major purchase of their adult life was these student loans. For us millennials, anyone who was attending college from like 2000 to current today, all right, you got sucked into the lie that we all needed to go to college, and if you didn't go to college, if you worked hard, you just went to college, you'd have all the things that like our parents had and provided this good life, right? Well, that turned out to be horseshit. That turned out to be a lie. We didn't need to go to college. We've got people in the medical field, and just nurses that have $250,000 of fucking student loan debt to get their degree or whatever. Now,
imagine what doctors have.
Oh, it's in the millions, I'm sure. So you go and you get those people and you tell them there's a lot of people that I've talked to that they've been paying their student loans for 15 years, and they had maybe there's like $100,000 or $120,000 was like the total amount. And in 15 years, after 15 years of paying, they still owe $85,000 is the principal that is owed, $85,000. So you've been, for 15 years, these motherfuckers have been paying $500 a month. And they or 600 or so, whatever the number is. I don't know what the number is. But they've been paying a large payment every month, likely more than what a car payment is, for 15 years, and it only took off like 20 grand. Like, that's crazy. And they're still going to pay for another 25 or 30 years. And I think that's something that wasn't really they didn't lead with that. These student loan deals. And the worst part is the government's the one that fucking did all this shit. These are all government-owned student loans. And yeah, when COVID happened, hey, everybody got put on hold. It's been cool. We need to figure out what we're going to do about all this, because it's not really fair that over 15 or 20 years, someone would have paid back $100,000 or whatever the number is. And then everything after that is basically the government turning a profit, or the lender turning a profit on all that.
It feels like you're setting an individual up for failure, because if they don't land a job and they aren't able to pay back the loans, then maybe you shouldn't give them the fucking loan if you didn't know, or you couldn't guarantee that they were going to get a fucking job, right? Like, why not get it on the back end? Like, if you're a nurse or a doctor and you're making six figures and maybe the middle to upwards of six figures, like, maybe just tax them more and get it that way, like in the back end. If it's about tax dollars, or if, I guess for people that loan out money, man, I don't fucking know. Like, you're setting an individual up for failure when you give them interest rates that they can't. I mean, they can't pay for the principal, and they can't pay for the fucking interest.
Well, like when you go buy a car, right? You have paperwork. Now listen, some people don't fucking read it, but it's very clear. You will be making this payment every month for the next however many months. And at the end of those months, you owe us no more money. It's paid. I guarantee you no one was given that information, because if they would have told them that you'll be paying for 296 months and you'll still owe money, no one would have taken those student loans. I guarantee it. Because if you tell me if you were to offer me a car and say, okay, it's going to take you 300 months to pay off this car, or after having paid for 300 months and you still are going to owe money, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to buy this fucking car. That's a terrible deal.
You're like, but how does it work where the person making the loan, get their money back, assuming that the person gets a fucking job and is able to? Because everybody has to get their cut, right? The government has to fucking get their cut. The person loaning or making the loan has to get their cut.
Yeah.
Like, how does it work for everybody, where somebody is able to get an education but not be in fucking
crippling fucking
pool of debt?
Well, the only way that you could do that in a timely manner was to do student loans. And what's crazy is they made college so expensive that you had to take out loans to pay for it.
Unless your parents,
unless you're well off,
unless you're well off,
or you somehow got lucky and got a scholarship through sport or whatever, right? Then sure, you get your education paid for. What's funny is a lot of these motherfuckers that go on to play professional sports, the motherfuckers that eventually could have paid back the student loans didn't actually end up getting any student loans because they had a full ride fucking scholarship or whatever.
They're advertising for the fucking school, basically.
So that's where it becomes this difficult problem of, well, it wasn't fair to these 18-year-olds that signed up for this shit because you fucked them. And you did it to them on purpose. You knew that they were idiots, and you just were like, fuck, let's get them.
Or this is literally better than what other options an individual has, assuming that the outcome was that you would end up with a job after you get your degree, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I just go straight to work, I'm only going to make like 50,000, because that's like what you're told, right? Is that if you don't get a degree, that you're going to be struggling to find a job and all that shit. And earning a degree is going to raise your pay scale, right? But man, look at all those people that have degrees that are on the outs of a job. And
well, again, when we were doing it, okay, well, at least what I did, well, I graduated high school in 06. Well, in 08, 09, that was obviously the biggest crisis economically that we've had since we've been adults. And I was already 2 years into college. So, like, if I would have took out student loans and then also had no job prospects on the flip side end of that when I was done, shit, then you're really fucked. Those people that started college in 2004 and got out and took out student loans and got out right into 2008, they walked out into no fucking jobs. They walked out into, like, no one was hiring. People were getting laid off. People were getting fucked. And
also, like, man, when it comes to jobs, they ask so much of you, dude. They're like, master's degree. You gotta know 10 people. And for Gen X, it was like, hey, do you want a job? Yeah, I'll take it. Why not?
Yeah.
Six figures.
Yeah, cool, man. Like,
forklift driver, 6 figures. No degree needed. You just need a certification, or maybe you didn't even need a certification. Can you drive a forklift? Yes. You're qualified. You're in, bro.
Yeah.
That's as much as you needed. And I feel like the requirements just to get your foot in the door is like PhD, 10 people that can recommend you, or 10 references or whatever.
Oh, you got to have 20 years experience.
20 years experience
for an entry level job.
Yeah, and you might be an infant. You might be 5 years old. You need 10 years of experience. I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous shit like that says, well, how am I supposed to get into this entry level job and get this experience if I need 5 years of experience and 10 references?
And you're not giving it. I don't even have a job to begin with. So it's like, where are you going to get that experience?
This is the entry level to this career path. So, like, how can I get the experience necessary? You just can't. It's impossible. So, and we were sold this bill of goods, and it was a lie. It was all horse shit. And now people are fucked and stuck with this debt. And what the crazy part is, it's against the law to be able to discharge it in bankruptcy. So even if you declare bankruptcy, you still have to pay the student loans. That is like one of the only things that cannot be discharged in a bankruptcy is fucking student loan debt. So if you declare bankruptcy, they go, cool, we'll get rid of all this other shit that you got, but you still got to pay them loans back. All right. Like, you still got to pay that. You can't undo that payment. So it's like you signed up to this with no out. Like, you signed into this thing that literally the only way you can get out of it without paying is if you die. And I still think that they will come after your family for it if they could. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Jesus Christ, that is just fucking ridiculous.
So,
anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, was this, that was all college loan stuff.
Yeah, those college loan stuff. And then the economic doublespeak, going back to that, with the tariff situation, right? We also have this fucking situation where it's now become, who knows who the fuck's telling the truth anymore with all this horse shit? Because I certainly don't. You've got the Trump U.S. administration saying, oh, China's coming to us and begging us to stop these tariffs. They're begging us to make a deal. They're just on their knees slobbering our knobs, begging us to do this deal. And then you got the Chinese going, oh no, we don't give a fuck. We're not asking. There's been no talks. The Trump people are saying, oh, we're in all these talks. We're having all these meetings with them, and we're talking about this, and we're coming up with deals. And China's like, we ain't been to shit. We ain't done nothing. We ain't been to anything.
In fact, we're not sending you any minerals for shit.
As a matter of fact, yeah. Now your mineral rights are revoked, like we had talked about in the previous episode of the Call of Duty prophecy in CUP or whatever.
In fact, we're putting a tariff that's 2,000%.
Yeah.
Or whatever exorbitant
amount. So we're putting an export tariff on shit. So this is all leading towards some fucking bad shit that's going to happen. And again, everyone else has our fucking foreign debt. All of our debt is owned by some other asshole. And now, what happens when it doesn't look like America's going to be able to make these payments anymore? What do? What happens? I don't know. We've never been in this situation. There are these guys that wrote this book. Fuck, man. I think I fucking... Oh, that Jelly Haha just went up on YouTube. I just got the notification.
Oh, good to know.
It's on there. There were these guys that wrote this book. It's called
The End Times.
No, it's something akin to that, but it's not. It's kind of funny, but it's. I did it on Amazon here. Where was it? Oh, of course, it doesn't fucking show up on here. This time is for real, or this time is. Oh yeah, this time is different. It's called This Time is Different. 8 Centuries of Financial Folly by these two professors from, I think they were Stanford, Reinhardt and Rogoff. And they basically wrote this book, and they were talking, this book was written in I think the 90s, and the mid 90s, and they analyzed all of these societies throughout history that have existed, all these economic systems and everything, and they came to this conclusion that you can essentially have 90% debt to GDP ratio is about the max you can have, right? Well, right now we're at 105%, okay? And they determined that, I think the number was around 130%. 130% debt to GDP ratio was death. No turning back.
Can you explain the ratio itself, the debt ratio and the gross domestic product?
So the
relationship between the two.
The debt to GDP ratio is essentially how much debt you have, which right now the US has about 37 trillion in debt, and our annual GDP, which I think US GDP it's 27 point, in 2023 it was 27.72 trillion. So it's right around 30. It's probably now in 2025 probably going to be.
All right, but explain the gross domestic product. What does it mean?
The gross
for a nation, for a country.
Yeah, so the gross domestic product is essentially it's a country's financial output. It's how much money it contributes and makes for the world, right? It's how much money it generates, it puts out. It's like a sign of its economy, how sizable it is. It's a way to quantify an economy, right? Is the gross domestic product. So your ratio, you can have the max you want to ever go is 90% debt to GDP. So if your debt is $100, or your GDP is $100, you could be $90 in debt and you'd be all right.
Without shit going to mayhem.
Without shit going too crazy off the rails, all right? You'd be okay. That's about the max you would ideally want to be at, maximum. They said that if you're at 135% or 130%, that's when shit is unescapable. It is toast. It's done. And we're at 100 and something percent.
So these guys have made an economic doomsday clock that we're minutes towards.
Oh yeah, we're in the ratios they're talking about, we're seconds to midnight in terms of that analogy or whatever. And there's from what they have ascertained is right now we are basically not able to get out of this. Like we're not going. The only way that we could get out of this is through military action. Like that's the only way that we can get out of this is if we just end up taking over everybody. Like that's basically all the people that we owe money to. Either they would forgive debt or we would take them over and it would no longer be a debt. Like, or we would defeat them in war and then it wouldn't be a debt anymore. That's essentially the only way that we could get out of this. Historically, that's how like the Roman Empire, when they would get into debt, okay, cool. Like, yeah, it would be as in trading with other countries or other partners that weren't owned by them. Well, if the debt to GDP ratio ended up getting too high for the Roman Empire, they would just go take over that country they owed the money to or that nation. And then they no longer owe them the money. And then therefore, cool, we popped it back down. So we're good. Eventually, shit just gets too big and, that's the downfall eventually happens. But the British had the same problem. Every empire throughout history or every major country has had these issues.
The Germans in World War I.
Right. Yeah, their shit. They had massive inflation. They've had all these fucking problems. And that's where you get Trump talking all this shit about the Fed and everybody and wanting them to cut rates. Because cutting rates, like we talked about before, will help alleviate the stress on the economy, allegedly, because banks will be able to borrow money from the government at 0% interest or very low interest rates. Sometimes even a negative interest rate. Like the Bank of Japan was doing negative interest rates for the longest time. COVID, I think, was the only time, or right after COVID was when or right before COVID, maybe it was, they actually went to a 0% interest rate and then it wasn't negative. But their interest rates were negative, meaning you borrow money from the government. If you took $1,000 from the government would they would owe you money at the end of it. Like they would be paying you money to have this. So you'd pay them back less money than what you borrowed. So that's what they were doing to stimulate their economy. I don't know if we'll ever see, I don't think we'll ever fucking see negative interest rates here. That would probably be insane. I don't even think we'd ever even see zero. But interest rates getting dropped heavily will make it so makes it so that people would be more likely, or banks would be more likely to lend out money even at a little slightly higher interest rate, because then they're still going to make money on it, obviously. And then also, if they know, okay, we don't owe the government that much money back, cool, like we'll lend it out easier. You know what I'm saying? Like, but what ends up happening is they don't end up lending it out. They end up hoarding it, or they go buy credit default swaps or some other dumb shit, and then they fuck the economy even worse instead.
And then they put the burden on taxpayers.
Yes, and then the taxpayer still is the one left holding the bag at the end of the day. And I read something that the United States government collected more tax money than at any other time in history in 2024. That we collected more tax revenue than at any other time. And we're still running multi-billion, multi-hundreds of billions of dollar deficits every fucking year that the government runs at.
Man, imagine if the military budget had been reduced, we might be able to alleviate some of the burden.
Honestly, it would only have stopped it would have slowed the bleed. It would have slowed it a little bit longer. But there's this reverse theory of accelerating spending. If you know you're gonna be fucked eventually, and you accelerate spending, you step on the gas and you do it militarily, then you might be okay to come out of it at the end of it. Because that's really, at this point in time, that's our only saving grace, is that we have a strong military industrial complex here, and that if we defaulted on all of our loans and all of our debt obligations, there's really only one option for the people who get left holding the bag is to come say, well, now we're going to seize some of your shit, meaning territory, countries, land, whatever, right? Whatever assets we have, they would try to seize it. And that would trigger a military conflict. And then obviously we have probably one of the most if not the most technologically advanced military, and we have some of the most experienced military individuals. That's starting to change now, but that's another conversation. The choice being they'd have to come get us. They'd have to come get our shit if they wanted it back or if they wanted it. And we would fight them to the death over it.
You have two buffers between two oceans.
Correct. And it's also a logistical nightmare to come get our shit. So that's how we've kind of been able to get away with this shit too for so long. It's because like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah, nothing. You're not going to do nothing. Yeah, go fuck yourself. But now, as we're in this position and the world's starting to turn on us, we're, as evidenced by this tariff thing, we've pissed everybody off now. And now they're like, you know what? Fuck you, America. So now our former allies are now economically putting more stress on us, and it's just gonna fucking snowball, and that's where it's headed. This week is it's all like earnings week or whatever for all the stocks, the stonks and shit. So I kind of am curious to see what is gonna happen this week. Right now, the stock futures going into Monday morning are they're low, but they're lower, but they're not. It's not like anything insane. They're only 94 points down. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it ends up. We'll see where it leads. I think people are kind of just being. I don't know what the word is. Cautious is probably the best word.
Well, who's going to fucking spend their money right now?
No one. I mean,
there's no. I mean, what forecasting technology could say, put your money on this, there's a future in this, I'm going to hold it long, when nobody knows anything?
Yeah, precisely. So, anyways, I don't know. That's pretty much all I had. You got anything else to add?
Shit, man. I think it's kind of interesting that there's like this parallel between the U.S. and Russia. Russia during their communist era, I suppose, that they were. I guess even North Korea, that they all invested in their military, right? Like that's where everything was going, and then people weren't able to eat meals, or they didn't have enough food to go around. It's like, man, what if we're heading towards that, where we're pushing so hard on the military shit that we're being taxed or whatever, but we're not seeing any of it coming back towards us, and I don't know, maybe are we going to reach that point where people are going to be desperate enough that they don't have meals on their tables and shit, and whether people come to us and invade us and start taking our land, or we just ultimately break out into civil unrest between basically warring states.
Yeah, I think that is eventually going to happen. I think that's on the horizon. I would hope it doesn't happen, but I mean, I don't think that.
I don't know, man. History says otherwise.
Exactly. History says otherwise, and people should be preparing for that inevitability. History dictates that eventually this shit's gonna happen. So we can all have this rose-colored fucking hippy-dippy outlook, but it's not gonna change the fact that history tells us how this goes. And it goes fucked every single time. Every single time it goes fucking sideways. Yes, eventually it recovers and things get better and it's normal for a while. But then eventually this shit happens again and it breaks down and it fucking goes haywire again. So, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to sit here and wait and see and continue to discuss it while we still have access to the internet and our platform. But anyways, all right. You got anything else? Nope. All right, cool. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for checking us out. I guess we'll catch you guys on the next one.